I said I didn't respect him, in front of his parents. My name is Rachel. I'm 31 years old. And I ruined everything. It wasn't a scream or a betrayal. It wasn't a dramatic scene. It was a sentence. A single sentence. Spoken in a moment when I could have chosen silence. But I didn't. That night at Daniel's parents' house, I broke something that might never be fixed. It was supposed to be just another Sunday dinner. That classic routine couples build over the years: roasted chicken, cheap wine, his dad's repeated jokes, and light conversation to pass the time. I went because I was expected to go. But the truth is, I was already exhausted long before we got there. Daniel has always been a dreamer. Since the day we met, he's had big ideas, plans that sounded amazing in theory. But I was the one who saw the bills. The one who held it all together when things didn't work out. The one who smiled for others while silently feeling like I was carrying too much weight alone. He wasn't a bad man. Far from it. He was kind, patient, and maybe too good for me. But when admiration begins to fade, respect goes with it. And I didn't realize I was on that path until it was too late. During dinner, he started telling his parents about a new idea, a financial coaching app for young entrepreneurs. His mom got excited, as always. His dad asked a few questions, laughed, patted him on the back proudly. And me? I smiled. But inside, I was drained. Drained from watching him start over and over again. From seeing our bank accounts sink with every new idea. From having no guarantees, no solid plans. And in that moment, his mom looked at me and asked, "Rachel, what do you admire most about Daniel?" Question came gently. Simple. Innocent. But in that moment, it felt like a gunshot. I took a while to answer. I looked at Daniel. He was smiling, expecting something sweet. But what came out of my mouth was, "Admire is a strong word. To be honest, sometimes I don't even know if I really respect him." Silence fell like a muffled thunder. His mom froze with her glass in hand. His dad stopped chewing. Daniel turned pale. I tried to justify myself. But honestly, I didn't try that hard. I said even more. It's just that he jumps from idea to idea. He has no stability, no long-term thinking. It's hard to trust someone like that. Those words had venom. And I knew it. But in that moment, it was like I wanted to hurt him. Wanted him to feel what I felt: exhaustion, frustration, fear. But he didn't respond. He just lowered his eyes to his plate and finished his meal in silence. His mom tried to change the subject. His dad made a comment about the wine. But the atmosphere was ruined. On the way home, the car felt like a coffin on wheels. No sound. No eye contact. Daniel drove with his hands tense on the wheel. That calmness of his, which used to soothe me, now scared me. When we parked, he turned off the car and simply said, "You could have said that at home. Just the two of us." I just sat there, unable to respond. He went inside the apartment, and I stayed in the car for a few minutes, staring into nothing with a knot in my throat that wouldn't go away. That night, we slept with our backs turned to each other, and the silence between us grew so loud. I couldn't even hear the sound of my own conscience anymore. I knew something had broken. I just didn't know how much. The next day, he woke up before me. The sound of the kettle on the stove echoed through the kitchen, and I stayed in bed, pretending I was still asleep. Part of me hoped he would come into the room, say something, anything. But all I heard was the clinking of a cup and the front door closing shortly after. He left for work. And I stayed there, alone in our silent apartment, with the feeling that time had stopped. Maybe the scariest part wasn't the silence itself, but the fact that I didn't know how to break it. That night, he came back as if nothing had happened. He placed his backpack in the usual corner, took off his shoes, went straight to the shower. He didn't look at me. He didn't mention the dinner. He didn't ask if I wanted anything to eat. And me? I did the same. Rolled through my phone. Pretended to be busy. Avoided any attempt at closeness. It's strange how distance can grow between two people even in a small apartment. We still shared the same couch, the same bathroom, the same bed. But we no longer shared words. Or feelings. The silence became so constant it started to feel like a presence, a third roommate between us. One that didn't make a sound but screamed all the time. And still, I didn't apologize. Not on the first day. Nor the second. Nor the third. Maybe because my pride was louder. Maybe because I was waiting for him to explode first, to confront me, to react. But Daniel was the kind of man who didn't yell. He simply withdrew, slowly, painfully, but with finality. I started to notice him drifting away in subtle ways. He stopped texting me during the day, stopped asking how work was, stopped touching me even when we lay side by side. It was like he was erasing our story little by little. And I just watched it happen, frozen. One night, I sat on the edge of the bed and asked, "Are you going to stay silent forever?" He, on the other side of the room, was folding a shirt and replied with a calm voice, "I have nothing left to say. You already said it all for both of us." That sentence hit me harder than any shout ever could. I tried to laugh, to minimize it. "Daniel." I was nervous. "It was dinner, a moment. You know I didn't mean it." He looked at me with an expression both sad and firm. "But you said it. And worse, you said it out loud. In front of my parents. And even worse, you seemed to mean it." That night, I cried in the bathroom. Not because he had been cruel, but because he was right. I had said it, and I hadn't taken it back. And now, seeing the pain in his eyes was like looking in the mirror, because only then did I realize how much he was worth. But I realized it too late. I started changing the way I talked to him. Tried to be more affectionate. Sent messages during the day. Made simple dinners. Hoped for a sign that there was still time. But he didn't respond the same way. He accepted everything with politeness, but not with warmth. And that's when you understand the difference between being present and truly being there. That sentence from the dinner became a ghost. And even though it wasn't repeated, it haunted every part of our relationship. One night, weeks later, he came home and found me watching a movie on the couch. I sat up, made space beside me, hoping he'd join. He gave a faint smile and said, "I'm going to take a shower." He stayed in the room for over an hour. And when he came out, he was wearing a coat, a backpack over his shoulders. I stood up, heart racing. "Are you going out?" He took a deep breath. "Rachel, I'm tired." "Of what?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Of trying to prove my worth to someone who says she doesn't respect me." I tried to hold him. Tried to say I didn't want to lose him. But he just shook his head. "That's not what you said that night. But it's what you've shown every day since." He walked out, and the door closed behind him like a period. The first night without him was silent. Not the routine silence we had cultivated in recent weeks, but a new, brutal silence. The kind that weighs on your shoulders, that fills the rooms with absence. His side of the bed was empty. Pillows still had the imprint of his head. And for some reason, I couldn't lie there. I lay cramped in my corner as if that space still belonged to him, and maybe it still did. During the day, I wandered around the house as if I were looking for something. But what I was searching for was no longer here. It wasn't his clothes, nor the sound of his voice calling me from the kitchen. It was him. His presence. His routine. The certainty that, despite our differences, he would still come back to me. Now, he wasn't coming back. Our mutual friends started to notice. The messages came disguised. "Is everything okay over there?" "You guys disappeared." "And me?" I lied. I said he was traveling, that we were taking a break, that everything was under control. But it wasn't. I started to go through our old conversations. I listened to his voice notes like they were letters. I watched silly videos of our everyday life. And I wondered how I could look at that man who listened to me calmly, who supported me even when I broke down, who smiled when he saw me arrive, and say in front of his parents that I didn't respect him. Painful truth is that I said that because, somewhere inside me, I wanted to hurt him. Not because he deserved it, but because I felt suffocated and confused. Because I wanted him to change. I wanted him to be more firm, more practical, more manly, as they say. And now that he was gone, now I saw how wrong I was to confuse calm with weakness, dreams with irresponsibility, sweetness with a lack of action. In the days that followed, I was consumed by an almost obsessive desire to reverse everything. I wrote messages and deleted them. I picked up the phone to call, but I trembled. I opened WhatsApp just to see if he was online. And he was. But he didn't reply. He said nothing. Once I saw he had posted a picture on his stories, a cup of coffee at a new cafe we used to talk about, with a simple caption, "New beginnings." New beginnings. As if everything we had lived through was just a chapter. And now I was just a comma in a paragraph he was ready to turn. I went to his parents' house one Saturday afternoon. I tried to find answers. His mother received me kindly, but her look was different. "You need to understand, Rachel. Daniel always put you on a pedestal, even when you seemed not to see him." I wanted to cry right then, but I held back. I asked if he was there. She said no. That he had come by to pick up some things and said he needed time for himself. Time for himself. As if all the time we spent together had meant nothing. On the way back home, I sat on the couch and looked around. The blanket thrown in the corner. Plant he always watered. Picture frame still holding our smiling photo from his last birthday. A smile that now seemed like a lie. I started writing a letter. 'Cause calling seemed intrusive. 'Cause facing it seemed unbearable. In it I wrote everything. I apologized. I said I was wrong. That it wasn't him who didn't deserve respect, it was me who couldn't recognize a good man. But I never delivered it. I kept it in the back of the drawer. Like someone keeping something precious but too fragile to be touched. Deep down, I knew it might already be too late. That some words, even asking for forgiveness, leave too many scars. And I also knew that his silence now was no longer hurt. It was an answer. Months passed. The seasons changed. Autumn arrived, and the leaves began to fall just like the certainties that fell within me. In the beginning, the pain was sharp, a constant stab that followed me from the moment I opened my eyes to the moment when, exhausted, I finally managed to sleep. But little by little, it changed. Didn't stop existing. Just transformed into something quieter, more intimate. The pain that sits beside me at breakfast, that accompanies me on public transport, that whispers in my ear when I hear a song he liked. And the worst? I still loved him. But I could no longer say that to anyone. Not because it would be shameful, but because he had gone because of something I had said. 'Cause I was the one who pushed him away. 'Cause in the end, there was no other blame but mine. I started therapy. It was a friend who insisted. In the first session, the therapist asked me how I felt. And I answered without thinking. I miss who I was with him. 'Cause despite everything, he made me want to be better. Even when I didn't realize it myself. He gave me space, but he also pulled me back when I got lost. He listened to me. Even when I said nonsense. Even when I said without thinking, or worse maybe thinking, that I didn't respect him. The word respect started to carry a different weight after he left. Before it seemed abstract. Now it was concrete. It was the foundation I knocked down with one poorly placed sentence. Once I ran into him by chance. I was at a bookstore, absent-mindedly looking at a shelf, when I felt that familiar chill down my back. I slowly turned. And there he was. Hair a bit longer. A new coat. And a serenity that broke me. He saw me too. He smiled. That polite, polished, kind smile, but not intimate. "Hi, Rachel." My name on his lips sounded strange. Almost formal. As if we were acquaintances and not two bodies that had once slept intertwined night after night. "Hi," it was all I could say. We talked for 3 minutes. We talked about work, about books. He told me he had traveled, that he was taking a new course. He didn't ask about me, and maybe that was for the best. I would have said I was surviving. And that sometimes I still slept on my side of the bed. We said goodbye with a wave. And when he turned his back and walked away, I wanted to run, to scream, to tell him I still remembered the smell of him in the cold mornings. But I didn't. 'Cause he was already too far away. Even though he was only a few steps away. Today I live differently. Quieter. More mindful of the words I say. More careful with who I choose to hurt, and especially with who I love. Love, I learned too late, isn't just about feeling. It's about care. How we speak. How we look. How we care for each other's pain. Daniel loved me. And I hurt him with the one thing he valued most, his dignity. And because of that, there was no turning back. There are days when I wake up smiling from a dream. And for a few seconds, I forget that he's gone. But the emptiness soon returns, polite, patient, firm, the way he always was. What's left? Regret is left. The lessons are left. The echo of a sentence that should never have been said is left. And a longing that no one else understands because it was caused by me. But above all, the silence remains. That same silence from weeks ago. Only now it's no longer between us. Now it lives with me.